Let's transition a little bit and talk about your departure from Framer. So you were gainfully employed at Framer for 6-ish years, working mostly on what was Framer Motion, what is now Motion. And I always find these sort of like independent movements really interesting. The indie hacker folks were purchased by Stripe and then rolled out of Stripe again recently. And I always like find the like how the like ergonomics of this work. So what was the conversation like of like taking Framer independent, and now that you're building a business on it, how do you think about like the differences of how you're working while you're at Framer versus like how you're working going forward?
So I think, I suppose there's a few, so over the years, it had come up. I always wanted Motion. I knowing it or feeling like it had been successful, but free. I was always pushing for like how I didn't want it seen as like a second rate part of Framer, I guess. And so I was always pushing for like, we could monetize it like this, we could monetize it like that. And there was never any interest, and rightfully. So like, because the addressable market for what Frame is trying to do is so different to what I was suggesting. Like what I'm suggesting is this is a nice, like imagine if you made this on this, and it's like, yeah, imagine like that's nice for one person, but it's not nice for a whole team of people. So, and likewise over the years, I'd been essentially running Frame Emotion to the best of my abilities as a personal fiefdom. Like I wanted this to be like just me, and I kind of always valued the periods where I got to do what I want. There was periods as well where I'd work closer with the team. There's all sorts of it's worked in loads of different ways over the years, and some work better than others. And like the way my brain works, I kind of need to let it loose in terms of I think I've learned over the years, like if I try and force my brain into concentrating on something that it's not really that interested in, then I'm going to get stuck. So at the moment, I'm trying to play on my sense of momentum in terms of like, if I'm interested in this right now, I just have to do, that's what I have to do. And that way you kind of keep moving and you don't feel resentful in a sense of like, but I've got to do this boring thing. If you wait long enough, the boring thing actually becomes interesting. So I always feel like, I can't get to everything right now. So I might as well get to the things that I'm interested in. And then like later down the line, I'm going to be interested in those other things because I care about them all. So essentially like that, having that sort of brain inside a company, which now like, especially once it hits success, like it was harder, I suppose, to align the interests of Motion with the interests of Framer, which I'm quite concerned about doing as well, because I'm like a big fan of Framer. And I like it. I love working there. Like I love, it's a phenomenal company. But above that, I always wondered what was best for Motion, and knowing that yes, like Frame is a massive consumer of it, but so is the rest of the web. Like, so how do I service both audiences to the best of my abilities? That's kind of how the conversation started by it was actually it's not like I'd never thought about it before, but when it was suggested, I knew immediately like. It was just a passing thought, but I was like, boom, like, let's get a plan. Let's present it to the company. And they've been amazing in seeing it. I think they understand as well, because like it's a mutually beneficial situation. At the moment, if you type in like Framer animations, obviously Framer Emotions documentation comes up. This is a no-code site builder tool. They don't need that. Like they just don't need it. So it's now, over time, it's going to be the situation where you type in Framer animations, you get their documentation, as you should. When you type in Motion animations, you get my documentation. And so it's a lot cleaner in that sense. And I think there was brand confusion around what the two different things were. And especially that since it became not a prototyping tool, but like to take something to production in Framer now, like you just have to press the publish button. Like it couldn't be simpler. Why have an API? And so when you start feeling like, if this was built today, we wouldn't have made it an open source animation library. I don't know. It sort of spoke to me, like just that thought. And so, yeah, I think we naturally arrived at this conclusion. And like I say, they're the first and biggest sponsor, so they couldn't have been more supportive, really. And likewise, it's going to continue powering the animations for all Framework websites for a while.
So when you break off and make your own company, though, there's a lot of things you got to think about. One of those being how you're going to fund it. Framer being the first sponsor is great, but do you have plans for other things? Is it just going to be sponsorships? I saw like a big mention of courses on the page. Do you plan on releasing a course?
I'm not personally going to do a course because to do it, like, so my problem is I want to do everything very well. And I know people who make courses very well. So I'm just going to forward people to their courses. I'm never going to do it better than these educators. Like, it's just not going to happen. Or if I did, it's not to say it's beyond my, I feel like with enough time, maybe I could do something like that. But because they put so much time and care into these things, that's how much time and care I'd have to put into it, if not more, and more time, because these are professional guys. I think my problem is that would come at the detriment to the core product. So the monetization strategy, if I can call it a strategy, it sounds a bit grandiose, but really it's a Notion document with a few bullet points on it. But the idea is that, so yes, corporate sponsors are a big part of it. I feel like there's a lot of companies out there that use Motion, and like their homepage is getting awards because they're using these wild animations. And they're super fans. So I feel like there's a lot of these companies are, and I've already got some like Linear, and is the host of it. I got actually Tailwind was the second sponsor. Tailwind extensive users, and there's a few more in the pipeline as well. Already, I would consider it getting towards, because I'm a bit concerned about churn as well. But I'd say we're getting towards very sustainable already, which is nice. But again, because I'm concerned about churn, I still want to push that a little bit, because there's more. You start to get into the realms of like, oh, there's more I could do here. Like, what if I could get someone a contract to do this or that? Like, where it's something that I don't excel in, or what someone can make a CLI for installing like local components or something. Like, they'll do it faster than me and better. Like, can I get like little contracts for these things together from the sponsorships? I don't know, but that's one side of it. Then the other side is like personal sponsorships. I don't think are gonna really fly. So it was actually today, as of the record, that I launched Motion Plus, which is it's in lieu of personal sponsorships, and that Motion Plus is going to be a one-time fee of say if before, so yeah, it'll be 300 quid basically by the time this comes out. At the start, I think if you're buying it, you're basically supporting Motion. Like, there's not many things that I'm able to give you because I'm just starting out. You get access to our private Discord where you'll get support and you get to meet other super users. You get a free wallpaper pack, which is probably the lower of the value offerings, but I use the wallpaper and I quite like it. And there's also, so the first thing that I'm doing is gating content. So every time that I come out of a new guide, I'll time gate it. I don't want to gate it forever because I want to build up a robust, for everyone, but they're going to come out time gated for roughly a month. This first one is a Vue integration guide, and that is going to be gated for 40 days because of Christmas. But I'm not going to unlock it until after Christmas because I'll be full, and I don't want to do it. No one care anyway if I did it. So I'm just going to keep on rolling these out. So at any given time, there should be a certain number of things that are time logs, but then over time that will just build the content. So it gives me an incentive. This is what I'm trying to do, align my incentives with the betterment of the product. So I'll building up this library of content that eventually everyone can use for free. The people who are really want to support the project and need this content, they'll get to pay for it. But you know what I'm saying. And then on top of that, I want to build up a library of permanently gated premium components that are much higher level APIs, like a custom cursor, these sorts of things, or a ticker or a particle system, these sorts of things that are built on the foundations of Motion. And they'll have what I could I'll be thinking a lot about the API for these ones. And then the last thing is I want to build up a library of we've got some examples, but they're kind of they're very bare bones. This is how would you use it. I'd like to spend some time building a catalog of curated, beautiful examples, perhaps like as a private GitHub repo that you can download and use locally, or maybe you go onto a page and it's locked until you are on Motion 1. But yeah, so, and this is all content that basically wouldn't exist if I didn't go independent. Like there was no reason for me to ever build this at Framer because it would take away from my other responsibilities essentially. So again, it's the alignment of my, my incentives to be able to keep it sustainable by making it better. That's the trick that I'm trying to attempt, I guess.